welcome to the stream. Welcome. Hope you're having a good Sunday and relaxing and nothing too crazy is going on for you guys. But welcome to the stream. I'm gonna play some Stardew today and just kind of chill and hang out with you guys. Yeah, poke catch right off the bat. Let's catch that Panda Cham. Pancham! I said Panda Cham? Pancham! Words, right? We're gonna start off with, you don't own that ball? Oh, yeah, maybe I gotta buy some. Okay, now I buy some, and now maybe I can catch it. But yeah, let's see, words. There we go. Words are, I should probably dig out all my ears. I put them away. I don't know why I would do that. I'm gonna have to go in the closet. I'm gonna roll in here. Let's see, what do we got? Okay. All my ears. Should I wear brown? Should I put on the black ones, Crowley? Oh no, she's going in my closet. Yes, I'm gonna find all your hidden things. Like your ears. And I'm going to wear them. There. I'm wearing Rain's ears. These are officially Rain's ears. She likes these the best. And she bought them for me too, so I mean, I guess they're her ears. But yeah, I'm gonna play some Stardew. I just haven't decided. Probably I might just do my Lynx farm and do that one. And see stuff. She's Cause I didn't give anybody like a heads up and say, hey, I'm gonna do Stardew. Do you guys want to play? So I'll probably just do solo tonight, unless you guys are just dying to play. So let me know. But yeah, I just want to play for a couple hours while I can. Before I send off my PC. Yeah. So I'm almost to the point that I've got things wrapped up to do that, but I have quite a bit to go yet. Oh, geez. Frosty Tools, what are you saying now? Thank you so much for the 53 months. Thank you so much. The ads say, Lady just officially brought KimonoKat out of the closet with a sub. Oh my god. That's terrible. Oh, jeez. Now, not only are the mods in the game, but they're also proudly supporting the stream. It's different kinds of mods. Welcome to the mod squad, Lady Rain, where the only thing hidden is our love for Stardew and KimonoKat. Where the only thing hidden is our love for Stardew and KimonoKat streams. How is that hidden? We all know we love Stardew. But yeah, thank you so much, Rain. Thank you. Put some hype in the chat. If you guys don't know how much I love Stardew by now, you know, I'm pretty sure you do. Thanks for the hype. Yes, all the emojis. They're so cute. They're so cute. I'm very happy with my emoji selection. I hope you guys are too. Is there anything else I need in my emoji collection? I mean, I do like holiday ones, so like for Halloween. We love the Stardew things here. Yes, we do. We do. I'm trying to remember where I left off and like which farm I want to do. You need a skitty? I do. I had a skitty at one time and I made it myself. And it didn't come out that great, so, but that was like one of my first attempts at making my own emotes. Since then, I've made several of them. I made the Zigzagoon Lick one that you're looking at. I made the Nico Ni. I've made several of my emotes since then. They've come out much better, but I do need to redo Skitty. Skitty would be a cute one to have. Especially since it's my fave. Gonna get make numbs. Ooh, what you making? Good luck. Bring Nums back. Tell us about all the Nums you make. Hi, Shane. How are you? I hope you're doing good. Welcome to the stream. Are you making pizza? Or not making pizza? Are you having more pizzas, Shane? Why did I say making pizza? Probably because Crowley's making things. I already have sleepy brain. And I had caffeine. So you get to put up with blonde Mono tonight. Just saying. I'm going to be a blonde. Oh look, KimonoKat's live. At least Sir Blue actually knows. Alright, let's figure out what game I want to play. Doing good, and no, not more pizza at the moment. Load, which farm do I want? I really kind of want to do Lynx, but it's really vanilla. It's one of my vanilla farms, so... I mean, it has the mods in it, but I play it more like vanilla mode. Or I could do Hacks farm if other people are going to play. And then there's always Meadowlands farm that other people can play too. Just depends. One's in year 2 and one's in year 1. You need to update. Oh, you're gonna play? Sweet. Okay. It's been a bit since you touched the game. No problem. I had to totally update all mine the other day. So, I'll get to do all that all over again soon. It'd be okay. Because I keep a mod list. Which is why part of my stream title says, what explanation Stardew mods? So, if you guys don't know, here is the most up-to-date mod list I have. I've been working on updating it and cleaning it up, so that should be the updated version. All right, let's do regular Hacks. I think we've been playing it the most lately. Hacks 1.6. Nexus isn't even updated. Nexus? You mean Vortex? Vortex or Nexus? Yeah. You got this. Yeah, I had to update Vortex before. Why do I still have a Christmas tree up? I'm pretty sure we've played it since then. Maybe we haven't played this one? No, I'm pretty sure we played this one. I don't know. What's in this storage bin? Geez, mostly plant items. Okay. Do I have one for decor somewhere that I'm missing? I thought I had a chest somewhere for decor. Definitely not these two. Oh, this is the game I'm married to Elliot in. I should be playing the other one so I can work on Krobus. Isn't that the one we want to work on? Is the one, I think it's the other one we played last. Made us a pot of coffee. What did I just give him? I don't even know what I handed him. Okay. Yeah, I think it's the other one I want to play. Yeah, I'm gonna load the Krobus farm. We should rename it Krobus farm. I don't think you can rename things, but... I don't remember extending my... Am I married in this game too? No. Oh. Rachel's. Hi, honey. Just kidding. This is Rachel's. I'm having this weird feeling like I just woke up in the wrong house and in an alternate universe, and Sebastian's now my husband, and I'm like, what the heck? I don't remember any of this happening. This must be Rain's house. Oh, or is that Momo's house? Actually, I think that's Momo's house. Yeah, it's Momo's house. Okay, yeah, I'm not married in this game. Oh, I was having some weird feelings there, trying to figure out my life. No eggs? Oh. Oh, that's right, we got the collector thingy. I think. I don't know what I've got turned on, what I don't. Wait, they're already making eggs. Oh, yeah. I don't know what I'm doing. Whatever. Let's see. I know I have a void mayonnaise for Krobus because he likes it. No, we're not eating the void mayonnaise. I was just holding it over my head to make it easier to like these people. Not like, but pet. Stop hiding, bunny! Okay. Oh, give me a fishy. Gotta go get the fish. Rainbow trout. Collect some of these mushrooms. No, I don't want to eat the trout or the mushrooms. Let pet Rain's kitty. Pretty sure I just petted Momo's dog a second ago. We'll gather these things. I probably should put some bait in here. Have any bait on me? No. The bait maker's making bait, though. I think there's 4. There. And so we put bait back in there. Alright, now we're gonna go check on the animals. We have a very busy farm here. See, I'm enjoying this mod that I added that lets me know who's been petted and who hasn't, with the cute little hand over it. On my way! Okay. No problems. You know what? I'm not sure if I loaded co-op or not. You'll have to let me know. I feel like... Oh, it helps if you're in co-op, so I'm not in co-op, am I? Dang it. Dang it. Well, there went that day. I was like, wait a minute. When I was trying to figure out which farm I wanted to load, I don't think I ever set it to host and to co-op. Ah. Alright, let's repeat this day and have some deja vu. Oh, it's Sunday. Let's see what kind of secret sauce we got going on in here. Queen of sauce. You learned how to cook carp surprise. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Papagaya loves. Who's on my porch? Rain. Rain. I think Rain's on my porch. Let's see. We don't want to hit the animals, please. Fruit Newt redeemed drink water. Thank you, Fruit Newt. Welcome to the stream. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. Oh, there's a fireplace in here. I forgot. It's so cute. I'm here to lurk. Well, thank you for the lurks. Much appreciated. Sometimes I have no clue who's looking. Or looking, or lurking. Lurking, same thing. I don't really pay attention. Oh, Rain's in here harvesting the greenhouse. Thank you. Shane, thank you for the lurk as well. But yeah, one of the mods I added has the nice little hands to show me who I've petted and who I have not. So that's gonna be helpful. And then I come in here, gather up. Ooh, no, I don't want to eat the truffle oil. No! I'm not married in this game, that's off-putting. Right? It's just Momo that is. You know what? Get out of there! Okay, they don't have wool right now. Okay. They milk the cows. They not have any milk? What's going on? What's wrong with... They're all on protest or something. Jeez. Or maybe Rain already milked them. Who knows? Alright. Animals have been taken care of. We'll check out the crops. They look good. All nice and watered. Rain is taking care of the doohickeys. Alright. Which tools do I have? I have a golden pickaxe. Hi, raccoons! Y'all are so cute. Raccoon journal. Ooh. Yeah, so cute. Ooh, let's see what she has today. I don't know what I need. A dressed spinner. Does that help Lady Rain? A midnight carp. A rare seed? Ooh, we might want a rare seed. I'll go ahead and buy that. Then some cloth I don't need. Plum pudding. Midnight carp is pretty. Put him in a fish tank. Let's see if there was anything I needed. Chef's bundle. We still gotta make some sushi. And plant a red cabbage in the greenhouse. Rain, plant a red cabbage! Alright, let's marry on mosey on this way. If I can get through all these weeds. Oh yeah, don't I need fiber for the raccoons? They want like 100 fiber. I could slowly start collecting some fiber for the raccoons. I'm sure that's redeemable by each person as well. Let's go. Oh, I don't have the golden axe. I can't do hardwood. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll upgrade my axe. I gotta remember what he needs to do it. But yeah. Ooh, fiddler burn. What does he need to do that? Let's go find out. Actually, I think I can call from my house, right? I can like call his shop and say, hey. But I'm already walking this way. He'll probably close by the time I get there anyway. Time to be a trash panda. Dun, 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 dun. Let's go. I don't know what the board says. Things and stuff. Ooh, we can buy ice cream today? Ooh, I want ice cream. Thank you. Maybe I can give the ice cream to her. Haley! Haley likes ice cream. Who knew? I kind of figured since she was standing there right by the ice cream. Oh, we missed it because we were buying ice cream. Look at that! Well, you know what? I'll buy another one. Because I gave that one to Haley. Oh, and then I accidentally gave it to him. I guess he likes ice cream too. Shoot. Gonna buy one before he walks away. Then I think I'm gonna go down to... Oh, I see some wiggle worms. I can't pass the wiggle... Oh god, that's taking a long way. Oh, we'll go, check out this trash can while we're here, too. Gotta hit all of them. Do the foraging things. I think I'm a master forager. That's all I want to do is forage everything. Terrible. Let's see. Also, Lady Rain, if you decide you feel like talking, let me know. And I'll join a channel. You came all the way here just to talk to me. How kind. I mean... Maybe. Let's see. There. Oh, did I already checked that one. Okay. What's on my to-do list? Lurk, thank you, Nick Dothy. Thank you for the lurk. Much appreciated. Welcome to stream. Bring Demetrius a pufferfish. Jeez. 10 beets in Mary Lewis's fridge. So, am I growing beets? I don't know. Bring Pam a pale ale. We still have not manufactured any pale ale. Here, some sashimi. I wonder if I know how to make sashimi. Maybe. Things I ask myself. There's a spiced berry. Anything else laying around? Oh. Let's see. Luck will not be on your side today. It's not a lucky day. Let's drop this in the recycler. Okay, and crafting goods. Let's check. Bloop. And bloop. And okay. What the hell? Oh, I must have like automate on. It's like everything's automating and scaring me. I'm like, what the hell? I'm glad I did try to play vanilla because it wouldn't worked out for me. Oh, I should have made some truffle oil. Oh well. I don't remember what I need and what I don't need. So I'm gonna come in here to the fridges. Fridges. Nope. And nope. And actually, this would be a good place for the fiddler fern too. And spiced berries, because they're found. Don't I have a fridge? Oh no, there's spiced berries over there. Dang it. Okay, spiced berries go over there. Oh, well that one's a silver one. Oh well. Stream streak, thank you, Dusty! Thank you for the stream streak. I appreciate it. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for lurking, everyone that's lurking and listening, and I hope you enjoy the chill stream. Just gonna chill. Okay, so I do have void mayo. I need to go talk to Krobus. That's what I need to do. What was I gonna see if I could craft? See if I can craft sashimi. I don't know if I know how to do that yet. Apparently not. Apparently I know how to make artichoke dip. But I need sashimi. I know how to make tortillas and eggs and pancakes, all the things that take flour and sugar and yams. But we don't have a flour. I don't know if we have a mill yet. Hi, pets. It's getting late. All 3 pets are in my house. Interesting. Okay. Actually, I'll leave a couple of those out. Take that one out. Do I have it? I don't think I have a fish tank yet, but we're saving up for a fish tank. That's what we're doing. Putting stuff in there for a fish tank. Raccoon shop has been expanded. Ooh. Rain must have gave him the book thingy. Did the book thingy. Is that what the book thingy did? It expanded the shop? I bet. I think it took a lot of fiber. Lots and lots of fiber. Day 8 of summer, year 2. Let's see. Aww, they're all waiting to be petted. I gotta pet them enough so that they start giving me stuff. Right, Umbreon? See, today is Gus's birthday. Well, that's nice. I think you're the one that I want to go see. I want to see about getting a better axe. I don't know what it's gonna take, though. I don't remember. I should call you real quick before I head that way. Do I have a phone? I think I have a phone. I don't have a phone. Why do I keep thinking I'm gonna call him? Maybe because in one of the other games I had a phone? The dilemma of too many save files. On top of that, I've really thought about playing the expanded map. I've never played it. But, probably because I feel like that's mostly like a solo thing because the mods have issues. Otherwise. Ice cream. Every time I see the ice cream stand, I think about the trick with the horse. So if you know, you know. And if you want to know, just ask me. Dash, Nico, Nico, Nee! Welcome to the stream, Dash. It opens at 9 a.m. It seems I'm a little early. How goes it, Dash? I hope you're doing well. Oh, a wild sparrow appeared. I'll catch. But yes, Nico, Nico, Nee, Dash. Glad you're here. Let's give out some hugs. Oh, nope. Hug the bot. Hug the bot again. Hug Dash. Dash gets the cookies. I'm glad. Cookies, add Dash. You get 1,500 cookies because I hugged a bot too many times. It was like, what is all that? See. Alright, we're gonna do a Momo. Apparently you're very special, Dash. There you go. Momo says so. Oh, so I have to do copper first? And I didn't bring any copper. I brought everything but copper. How rude. I can't just skip copper? That mean I'm not going to be able to upgrade my tools today. Curious substance. The extremely rare power goods known as ectoplasm. Melons are high demand. I ain't doing no melons. We can do ectoplasm. Isn't that just slime goop? Yeah, we can do the goop one. Newest update from KimonoKat's Chill Farm Day. Lady Rain's modding skills are on the point, joining the coop fun. Wild Pokemon hype with Smeargle and Sparrow sightings. KimonoKat snagged a Sparrow. Hugs and cookies are flying around, especially for Dash Ketchum. And remember, you're all special here. Stay tuned for more farm adventures. Yes, you are. You're all special here. Da, 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 da. There. Alright, we're gonna go back. And I'm determined to upgrade my axe. I'm tired of having a puny axe. And then we could go mine. Oh, it's a good day to go mining too, because it's raining. Is it luck? Oh no, no luck today though. So it's not a good day. Dun, 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 dun. Go this way. Alright, I brought copper. And you're still open. Okay. Copper axe, please. Thank you. I'm pretty sure I checked his trash can. I did not check the one up here, though. Do we want to go get some slime goop? Totally could. Inventory's a little full, but it'd be okay. Look at all this. All those weeds. I guess I can't go that way. Why was I thinking I could go that way? I know there are hidden paths that you can unlock. I'm not sure we've unlocked them yet, though. Ooh, a grape. Alright. Oh, we found Rain. She's getting slime, I bet. I don't know what Flora wants. This one sounds good to me. Oh, of course. Pick the one that's infested. Good job. Well, at least there'll be lots of slime here. I did decide I needed it, so, I mean... Apparently floor 50 is infested. I got a dwarf scroll. Which reminds me, I keep forgetting to go visit Krobus. I'm never gonna make friends with that dude and invite him to live with me. At this rate. Ew, don't play games with me. Die already. No, get off me. $51 and $79. Oh. Now I'm on 51. 51! Get off me! I wonder how much slime we gotta collect. I didn't read that part. Get away from Rain. I will protect you. Do we both get the drops? Apparently my speed's not turned up. Weird. There we go. I'm gonna get all this silver stuff. I don't think we have much silver. Oop, I found the downspout. Oh my god, there's bunches of those fur balls in here. Little sprites everywhere. They're so cute. Just reminds me of anime. The sprites in like Studio Ghibli. Or like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. It's just not proper without them. Ah! Found the down path and they're murdering me. But... Hey, get off me. I should probably eat some cheese soon. There we go. Hey. Ooh, copper. There's just so many goodies in here. It's getting late. Oh yeah. Get away from me, batty bat. Boobies. More iron ore. And a doohickey. Some jade. Why is there a fish hopping? How the heck did you get a fish in the mine? I don't even know. I'm gonna get this coal over here, because that always comes in handy. I thought Rain went down here with me. Maybe not. Somehow I ended up in places by myself. I don't even know. Oh my god, maybe she's just that far ahead of me. What the heck? I think she's that far ahead of me. I don't even know what's happening here. Ooh, a secret note. I wonder what that one says. Oh no, it's time to go to bed. It's time to leave the mine. But I want this. And this. It's a diamond. I want the diamond. Give me the diamond. Alright, now we can leave. Leave mine. Oy. Well, that was a good day. Got all the things and stuff. And then I'll put this. Oh, I forgot to go tell Gus happy birthday. Sads. I'm terrible. Kitty! Umbreon, I need to go to bed. Umbreon! There we go. Jeez, between the dog blocking the left side of the bed and Umbreon blocking the hallway. Good job. Scout. Critical strike chance increased by 50%. Fighter. All attacks deal 10% more damage. I don't know. What do you guys think? I guess 10% all the time versus a chance of 50. Booksellers in town. Ooh. I wonder what the bookseller has today. Other than I need one of those for Cross. And books! You can see Rain across the bottom of the street. Books! She's yelling in the... Don't yell at me! Just kidding. Ooh, batteries. Okay. Put the batteries in there. I feel like I could put these... I don't know what to do with the rare seed right now. I'm gonna put it in there too. And then I'm gonna sell some stuff, like seasonal stuff that I probably shouldn't sell, but I did. And then put those back. I don't need those anymore. I don't know if we have all the door scrolls or not. Okay, we'll read those a little bit and then come pet all the animals and things and stuff. Let's go check out the books. I want a horse. I wonder where we're at on the slime research, though. Deliver an ectoplasm to the wizard. Oh, you just gotta take one to him? I think I just put them all in a chest. Oops. Oh, catch Corsola. She bought her books and she ran. I bet she's going to see the wizard now. Alright. Buy books. Book of Stars. Ooh. Almanac. I may have already bought that one. I don't know which ones I've already bought before or not. Oh, we don't have that much money. Crap. I'm sure I don't need the price catalog. Leveled up. New ideas to sleep on. Dun, 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 dun. New power. A few things about fishing. Tree stuff. Okay, now I gotta go make some money. Corsola has been caught. Let's see what these secret notes were first. There's no better helper than a raisin-fed Junimo. We can make raisins? Oh. What? That's not noon. The bridge. Oh, that's top secret stuff. I know where that is. That's the bush by the fishing thing. And it says it like just before midnight or something. Yeah. Secrets. Things happening in the bush. Drink coffee. And then, what was I doing? I done forgot. Oh. Ectoplasm. Get sidetracked by wine. Yes. I need wine. Look at that. Hot pepper wine sauce? Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. I don't know about that. I'm gonna drink some coffee to wash down my hot pepper wine sauce. I don't know why I went this way. Oh well. Hi, dude. You wanted one of these, right? This, I suppose I'll cast it into the flames and see what happens. Was that not what I was supposed to bring him? Ectoplasm. Maybe that's not the same thing. Found in the remains of slain ghost. Oh, that's a different substance. Never mind. Jeez. Read. Words. I want Stardew Valley. It looks like fun. It is a fun game, Dash. You would like it. It's got lots of mystery. I tried to tell you it was ectoplasm. I don't know. Oh, I was gonna look at the raccoon thingy. So what did we buy? That extended stuff. I don't even know. The shop looks the same to me. I think there's coffee beans. All the coffee beans. We can make some coffee. Yes! Gonna make some more coffee. All these coffee beans. What? Did all 5 go in the one thing? Oh no, okay. Never mind, I was so confused. Oh, requires 5 beans. Oh, it did. Well, I guess that makes sense. It would take more than 1 bean to make a cup of coffee. Pyong. Then we can take 3 bazillion gazillion beans to make coffee. There. Actually, I'm gonna sell those. We have unmilled rice. So, did I get any ectoplasm before? Do I even know what that looks like? I'm not sure I do. There's void essence and solar essence, but I don't remember what ectoplasm looks like. Take that out of there. And doop and periwinkles. I don't know if we need that or not anymore. Let's see. What does it say? Has less than a 10 drop rate. Oh, geez. New friend, you got it? Sweet. Got the ectoplasm. Oh yeah, you said you want Stardew Valley, yeah. You should get it, Dash. It's a reasonably priced game. I think it's like 15 bucks or something. It's definitely worth the money with the hours you put into it. Oh, that's what it looks like. That is so cool. I have not seen that before. That is weird. Okay. Well, you can give it to him if you want. I'm gonna go see Krobus and give him some void mayonnaise. Because I want him to be my friend. He's gonna eat half and use the other half to moisturize his body. Wow. Okay, Krobus. I'm too sensitive to sunlight to go out on most days. Aw, the conditions in here are perfect. don't you want to come live with me? Care to buy anything? I feel like I should buy something from you just to make you happy. Butterfly powder. Oh my god, I remember looking that up. Sprinkle on a pet to remove them from your farm. No! Don't do it. Don't do it. There's a wizard catalog? Monster fireplace. Sign of the vessel. Void egg. We got those. Omni geode. We have like no money. I need to make money. There, I bought something to make him happy. Maybe I'll love Shane this time. Do it! Go for the blue chickens. I went in one way and came out the other. Oh, well, yeah. Directionally challenged. It happens. You hear that sing-song, hubby? She's going to romance you in this save file. We'll find out if he's lurking or listening. The wizard is closed. No, dang nabbit. Freaking Shane. Yeah. Oh. Radishes. I'll put those in the fridge. Anything else that I need to harvest? Doesn't look like it. Holy but jeez. Look at the time and the coffee. Meow, meow, meow. We get to make money, Rain. I guess I'll refill these in the morning. Because, time is of the essence here. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, time to go to sleep. Get in bed. Running out of time. Aw, there's a rain in my bed. Sleep. Just in time. Fishing level 2! Yay! That book helped me out after all. Yay, we made money. We're not broke again anymore. Thank God. Although I'm pretty sure this is the hack one that I allowed money in. I don't remember. Maybe not. Pelican Town Luau. Potluck. Oh God. What things are we supposed to bring to the potluck that actually make him happy? I don't even know. Hi, chickies and rabbits and ducks and dinos. Who needs petted? Who has a baby dino? I didn't... Wait. Is this happening what I think is happening? Okay, we're moving this away from the automator. I think it was automating to the point that it was even selling everything. I'm so confused. I didn't know you could do that. Apparently you can. Ooh, money. Oh, that was from the curious substance. Look at that. Pufferfish. 10 beets. I don't think we ever grew beets. Alright, I'm petting these guys. They better start coughing up some milk. Oh, missed somebody hiding down here. Boat catch. Hi, artist! Welcome to the stream! How did your stuff go today? Did you have lots of luck? Or was that yesterday? That was yesterday, wasn't it? Oh, I don't want to eat it. I want to put it in the machine. Oh, that's the wrong kind. I'm trying to put the other kind of mushrooms in the machines. Oh, good job. Oh, maybe they don't have milk because it's automatically milking them. If it is, I'm gonna freak out. It is. It's automatically milking the cows, I believe. Okay, good to know. I think the cows are getting milked overnight and it's turning to cheese. The only thing it's not automating is the truffle mushroom stuff. Oop. I bet if I put it in the chest it will. And Swabble has been caught by KimonoKat. Okay then. Okay. Ooh, donating all the things to the museum. Good job. Hi, Dogo. You need pets? I give you the pets. And I'm just going to sell that. Need to check the fridge to see if there are any of these types of stuff in there. There's a spiceberry in there, but there's no sweet peas, but I think they're technically poisonous, so probably wouldn't be any sweet peas in there. More radishes. Totally not giving Shane alcohol while he's working. You would. Oh, can I pick up my axe yet? Oh, it is finished. Yay! Today's recipe is omelet. And Maru's birthday is today. Yeah. Closed on Wednesdays. Get him. Slacker. Gotta go get my axe, though. Here's the ticket! Yay! We'll go use this real quick. Maybe I got time to do everything. Push the button! I got a little heart book. Friendship. Ooh. I guess you select the next one tomorrow. Let's see. Can I have a pickaxe? Thank you! I should have brought silver so I could do the next phase of it, but oh well. Look at you. Thank you. Do you like coffee? A fun gift. Let's see. Learned a new power. Interesting. Welcome back! Hope you had wonderful nums to eat. And they were delicious. Oh, what's... Okay, he already knows that. Can I donate that to you? Is this for me? Thanks. Didn't like it, I guess. Oh well. But welcome back to another quiet day on the farm. It's so peaceful. Oh, hi. You want some coffee? Dun, 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 dun. It's an oyster. What is Rain doing? Rain's fishing. But gonna catch that yellow sea cucumber with your cat bobber. It's so cute. Let's see. I'm not getting any bites. Legendary fish. Look at you. Mediocre fisher person and pro fisher person. I can't catch a single thing. Had pork with green beans, carrots, sweet corn, and mashed potatoes. Look at it. What is it? Do I need it? Crap. Is that the legendary fish? So cool. Look at you. I think I need one of those yellow, crimson fish. Sweet. I need one of those, puffer fish for Demetrius. It's not sea cucumber. I was thinking it was, but it's not. Yeah, I need that. Yay! Thank you. Go see Demetrius now. Give him a puffer fish. Although he probably won't let me see him. Feeling lucky. Rain's super lucky. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know. Maybe he's at the bar. Does he go to the bar at night? Demetrius. Nope. Shane's in there. Oh, I didn't bring mayo for Krobus. Demetrius is probably where I can't access him right now. Hidden away. No, the door's locked. Dang it. She's outside. Hi. Is he outside? No. There's a grape, though. And a spice berry. Hey, you home? Would you like a spice berry? There you go. Bunny! Oh, wiggle worms. Oh my gosh, it is good luck today. I got a warp totem and 2 mystery boxes from wiggle worms. That was good luck. Should I add the shorts? You can. Can you get all the pairs? Like 9 of them? I don't know if you've seen that trick or not. Where you get like 9 of them. Just luau so they go in the soup? Yeah. Okay, yeah, not the garage display where you put like 9 of them on the display. Don't do that, don't whack at it. See, we'll replant the sunflowers where we picked them up. And I don't have any more sunflower seeds. I need more seeds. Carrots? Are we in summer? I think we're in summer or spring. I don't even know. How many days? 14. I don't even know. And then carrots. Nope. It's just gonna have to be corn. Rain has gone to bed. Oh, that's the wrong chest. I should go to bed too. Looks like we never restocked the coffee beans though and such. Oh well. What do I got on me? Got a spice berry and a grape. Grape? No, don't eat the grape. Put it in the barrel to make grape wine. Thank you. Can I make cheese wine? That would be gross. Oh, I can apparently make radish juice. Oh no, I missed one. Okay, I'm gonna have to go to bed in somebody else's house. It's getting late. There we go. It's kind of convenient having a bed right next to the garden. Just saying. Luck is on our side today. Oh, is that a purple cabbage? We can take purple cabbage to the community center? You mean? Yes! Melons? They're not ready yet. Poppy beans? Heck yeah. Coffee beans! Put the coffee. Oh, actually, those are gold coffee beans. I can sell those. Put the regular coffee beans in there. Where'd the rest of the coffee beans go? I don't even know. Oh, flower! It's pretty. A summer spangle. Thank you. I want pork chops, green beans, and carrots, and sweet corn, and mashed potatoes. That's a lot of different food items. That's a lot of veggies. You can use bait to make fish bite faster. I know that. Thanks for the ectoplasm you delivered to me. I've made a major breakthrough in the field of arcane engineering. Enclosed, you'll find blueprints for the most useful machine, mini obelisk. Oh, an obelisk? Sashimi! I can make sashimi now. Martin gave me hay. Okay. Boop, boop. And boop. And boop. And boop. Oh no, I can't sell that. A wild soul rock appeared. The luau has begun. Oh, crap. I forgot about that. What if I don't want to go to the luau? Okay. Organize. Bring quality crop. Okay. Got it. Can I bring a purple cabbage? May do that. I don't have that totem in there. Doop, doop, doop. Doop. Okay. Alright, let's go to the luau! Sorry, kitty. No pets for you. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I went the wrong way. I guess it doesn't matter. No one caught the rock. Yay! Ouch. Okay, okay, nothing disgusting. Got it. What about shorts? Whoa, I didn't hit anything. Ooh, star fruit. I guess if you don't have a seed maker, you can make star fruit seeds. I mean, if you have one. Okay, I should put food in there. Purple. I probably should have added like a purple quality. Oh well. I didn't think about that. Hi, Demetrius. I know you're dancing. I wish I could hand you food right now. I have your purple cabbage. Look at their outfits. Aren't they so cute? Look. I changed some of their outfits. Ooh, Elliot. That's a nice outfit. Aw, Jody is so cute. Look at his hair. The little wildflowers. Shane has not shaved. He's got like the 5 o'clock shadow going on. There's Sam. Abigail. Ooh, look at that top Abigail has on. Ooh la la. Okay, did I talk to everybody? Nope. Leia. Pam, get back here. She's got like leopard print or cheetah print tank top. Okay, okay, maybe I talked to everybody now, I'm not sure. Whoa, I didn't know you could sit there. Did you know that? You could sit up here and wait. Yeah, I think so. That's so cool. I didn't know we could sit up there. Hello and welcome everyone. I'm pleased to announce that the potluck ceremony has begun. I have high hopes that you all contributed high-quality ingredients. We want to leave the governor with a good impression now. Oh, he's gonna get a good impression. Hee hee. Rains with the hee hee down there. Well, Governor, would you indulge us with the honorary first tasting? I would be delighted. I've been eyeing the soup all afternoon. He turned red. It's a bit tangy, but actually the flavor is quite good. What? He liked it? Just 1 minute. There's something in my bowl. What's this? What? Gasp! This is outrageous. Mayor, how do shorts get into his bowl of soup? Your underpants. I've never been so insulted in my life. He turned green. My tongue is swelling up. I think I'm going to be sick. Whoever took part in this appalling act is truly reprehensible. Using my very private item for this sick purpose? He's so mad. And to ruin a perfectly good soup? Unforgivable. I've never been more ashamed of this community. Truly disgusting. Did you enjoy that, Crowley? Go home. The festival is over. I guess the little prank didn't go over too well. Hello. Time to head home. Gosh, you scared me. Huh? What'd you say? I know. That's so cool. Love it. We all need a prank. Let's see. Da 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 da. Can't. Oh, you're fine. Let's see. Yeah. You can't hear rain on stream? Oh, hold on. Let me fix this. Properties. Uh-huh. What about now? Say something.
Oh, no. No. Auntie, no, you can't have my mango, you fucker. Mine.
There you go. First thing out of her mouth. Just kidding.
What? I'm telling
Are you happy? Yeah.
Be nice. I told you you weren't gonna like it.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid dog.
It's like midnight. Why is it midnight? I wonder if I could put that in the thingamajig.
Put what in?
Like, put in the, probably should put the truffle oil in the fridge so we have some to make stuff with. There may already...
upgrade my house.
Might already be some in there.
I need to play more Mystery too.
Oh, it would be in that one. It would be in the last one. No. Where is it at? Yeah, I haven't played that in forever. Oh, there's tons of it in there. Never mind.
Yeah, I started playing it because they did the big update again, but I haven't played it since.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the fucking witch! Who
We
was she
already
giving
have...
us this time?
Don't we already have
We're
void
getting a
eggs?
void?
Maybe we didn't. I could have bought one from Provis the other day. Oh well, I don't have to buy one now.
When we can have a witch.
Right?
That's not me. Rude. I'm not an evil witch, though. It's fine.
Anyway.
Request my house upgrade. Abby, one of these days you should come to my room after dark. Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, thanks, Shane. You gave me a strange bun recipe. Kitty.
Alright, we're gonna go to town with all the things. We have luck today, the traveler's here today, there will be a thunderstorm tomorrow.
I don't recall us having a void chicken, but now we have, oh, we have a couple void chickens apparently.
Yeah, oh that's right, I have void mayo. I've been giving it to Krobus.
I just put that void egg into
the incubator thingy-majiggy? Okay.
Yeah, so we can have another void chicken.
No problem. Don't eat the void mayonnaise. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go give this to him real quick. Hi, I'm here to see you today. Oh, I should have talked to you too, and I'll just hand you something. Oh, he didn't have anything to say today. Sad. He's just like that.
Catch fish while I'm waiting.
Oh, hi. Oh, hi. What do you want? Well, that wasn't very nice. Just being a friendly neighbor and saying hi. A scorpion carp in the trash?
I'm sorry, what?
A scorpion carp. It's like a carp with red fins. It's kind of cool looking. But why was it in the trash? Mm-hmm.
I don't even have a scorpion carp in my thing. What the fuck? You just got one out of the trash, and I don't even have one that I've caught yet.
Get a whole encyclopedia chest there of fish you're keeping.
Yeah, it's in the collections thing.
Nice.
What do you mean? I have 450 pieces of wood. It's okay.
Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you. Going to town. How do I get a
No, I don't know. Apparently you just dig in the trash.
It's in the desert.
Oh. Interesting. Filled snacks. What do you even like? I thought it was F1 to see what he liked. There it is. Currently Pelican Down. Golden Pumpkin, Complete Breakfast. Jack be nimble, Jack be thick, magic rock, candy, pearl, prismatic shard, rabbit's foot, and salmon dinner. Man, he's particular. Dude. Very particular.
Scorpion carp now.
Oh, he apparently likes trash food too, though. He just didn't know he did. Okay, I should have checked if Gunther needs any of these. Oh, poke catch. Oh, I gotta go see Demetrius. Poke catch if you're catching Pokemons! Demetrius, I have a cabbage for you! Grab the resin while we're here. I always forget to look on the map to make sure they're actually where they're supposed to be.
Oh, you have that mod installed?
Yeah. Shows you where they are on the map. Yay! Oh, it's a puffer fish. Who am I supposed to bring the cabbage to?
The community center?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
We're doing good here. Okay, good thing I have another purple cabbage.
Yeah, I didn't plant it anymore. Better talk to Sebastian.
Newest update from KimonoKat Stardew Valley Farm. The chat's been on a wild Pokemon chase with Solrock and Weepinbell popping up. But at last they slipped away uncaught. The crowd's calling foul play with cries of rigged echoing through. Meanwhile, Crowley is tuning in, but seems to have missed some of Rain's audio. Stay tuned for more farm fun and mod adventures.
Oh my god.
Yep. Don't eat the cabbage, I swear. Alright, community center will literally be done after we get, like, one thing, I think.
What is it that we're missing?
I think it's just the, Maki rolls that I don't know how to make yet. And I don't know who gifts them to you. Somebody gifts them to you, too, but I don't remember who it is.
Yeah. I don't remember. Also, I love how you haven't read the thing and talked to the wizard because you couldn't understand their little words.
Dude, what are you talking about?
They had their little words when they took the star.
What are we talking about on the...
The little Junimos in the community center.
I mean, I read the tablet, and I talked to the wizard.
For whatever reason, I thought it always had, like, regular text, not the weird
thing. I didn't think they actually had words. I don't know. Maybe you have a mod that tells you what they're saying. I'm just kidding.
Maybe you just didn't get high with the wizard on this playthrough. I don't know.
Maybe not. I'm pretty sure I did because I wouldn't be able to see the tablets at all, and I wouldn't be able to donate if I hadn't talked to him.
Unless he concerned date changed it.
Yeah.
Where you only need one of us to do it. I don't know.
I already checked those. Oh, that tree's got green stuff on it. Do you like mayonnaise? Thank you. Just giving random people mayonnaise. Because I can.
Oh, I need oh, Pierre's closed though. Oh no, he's not. Oh, he is. Yep.
Okay.
He's closed. That's fine. I'll go talk to Shane in the bar. Maybe. Abigail said to meet her in her room at 8 o'clock.
Oh my. You're romancing Abigail now too?
Well, that was my original plan.
Oh.
Was it Abigail? Or maybe I missed the thing? I don't know.
Oh wow. We have hops. Does that mean we can make pale ale now?
Yeah.
Yay, I finally need to make pale ale.
Abby's not, yeah. One of these days you should come to my room after dark, maybe around 8 p.m. I want to show you something. And it was mail. She's not there. It's fine.
Oh, my inventory's full. No. Okay, okay. How's my inventory full? I don't like it. Let's see, drop those off. Put that off. Actually, oop. And mushrooms, and coral. And mayo. Too many things. I'll save all that. 6! Nikani! Welcome, 6! Oh, yeah, you finished picking all the crops. Because I could not. My inventory was full. I had to abandon ship and come back. I did find some extra coffee beans, though.
I guess I didn't collect them all.
Okay. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, don't go to bed.
Is it bedtime already?
It's after midnight.
Jeez. Days go by too fast in Stardew. I need more points. Oh no! Needs more points. More cookies. Jeez. Ah! Yes. The expectation cookies. Add every. Is it everyone? I think that might have worked.
No.
That's it all.
Yeah. Here, I got it. There you go. There we go. That's the correct one.
Okay. Like, I don't know. Maybe that'll work.
New ideas to sleep on.
Fried mushrooms. Mm. No, it didn't work. They didn't even have 100 cookies.
It's supposed to work.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact command for it. There. Ah, accidentally picked up the bed. Jeez. Good job. Oh, sashimi. Who needed sashimi? No, it's maki roll. But somebody needed sashimi too, I think. Pam's thirsty. Pierre wants sashimi. Okay.
Oh, we just need rice. Or maki roll.
Do we?
Uh-huh.
Maybe you have
Oh,
the
I took
recipe.
from
I
Pierre.
don't even know if I have the recipe, so.
I definitely have the recipe.
Bro.
I'll go buy some rice from Pierre.
What? You don't have enough cookies to use boop? I am so confused. But you do! I just gave you 1,000 cookies! I'm lost. Words.
No, I can't either. I definitely have.
Words.
Mono. It
Mm-hmm.
reset. All of
Why
my
did it?
hours and cookies are gone.
I blame my computer. 100%.
I had so many.
I blame my computer. I'll see if I can retrieve them. I know I have backups, but I'm so confused.
Oh no, I didn't do it.
But even me adding cookies to everybody, it didn't work.
I'm gonna try this. No. That didn't work. So. That's interesting.
Yeah. Bots. Bots and computers. That's, yeah.
Maki roll. I'm gonna donate the maki roll now.
Okay.
Okay.
Community center is complete. Mm-hmm.
Yay.
We did it!
We did it. Yay.
We did what? Maybe I could give you guys cookies because I don't have cookies? Oh, wonder what my cookies are. I didn't work. I don't even own cookies. Oh,
Well,
dang it.
It should work either way. It's not you're giving them. If you did, like an exclamation cookies give, it would be different. But
It's rigged. I'm just saying, it's rigged. It's messed up.
Well, we're definitely gonna have to riot.
Yeah, you guys might have to riot because there's no cookies. Blame the bot. No cookies equal riots.
Oh yeah, I need to get a bouquet
Jeez.
from Pierre.
That's a cute riot. Is that a lemon? Fruit rage. Nice. Is that a lemon or a banana?
It's a lemon. It's the lemon from Adventure Time.
Oh, okay. Lemon!
Oh, I found Shane drunk.
Okay, so I'll have to figure out the currency mess. I hope my commands are still there, like quote and all that. I hope they're not gone too. Let's see.
Nope, we're good.
Those are still there. Well, what the hell, bot? Just take all our cookies away. Today is Alex's birthday. And I worked hard for them cookies. I bet you did. Dun, dun, dun,
No,
dun,
fab.
Do we already
I
have
don't
a
really...
already have a dehydrator, right?
So we could use the recipe.
Yeah. Hi, hi. Says my steel axe will be ready in one day. Yay! Then I'm gonna throw it away for a gold one.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, booyah! Momo with the highlighted message. Look at that. And I have a seed maker. Should I put it down by the garden? Probably. Seed maker. I didn't put any seeds in it. Why is it moving? Oh, it's automated. Crap. I don't want it to be doing stuff. Quit. Don't want you processing my vegetables that I'm gonna put into preserve jars. There. If you wonder why the seed maker is spaced away from everything else, there's a reason. Radish juice. We made radish juice. I fixed to make some pale
And talk to Shane.
ale though. I'm excited. We need the pale ale.
Abigail, but now I'm gonna
for Pam.
Shane.
So don't sell any pale ale, because everybody's gonna need pale ale for it. Then what is that machine? Dried peaches. 13 hours, 20 minutes. Huh. So we're making dried peaches. Apparently. I didn't know that was a food dehydrator. Food dehydrator. Whoa, Newt! I worked hard for cookies. Yeah, Fruit Newt's here. He says hi sometimes. He's a lurker.
Emily doesn't like moss. How rude.
Oh, what the hell?
It's okay, you've already read it, it's fine. It has a little thing
Have I?
next to it. Uh-huh.
Oh.
Thumbs up next to it.
Oh, so I don't need to buy it again? Oh, jeez. How many times was it gonna let me waste my money?
A lot.
Apparently so. Put that down by the garden. Take that out of there. That doesn't belong in here.
Keep forgetting about the greenhouse.
That goes in the garden. Technically, all the seeds can go down by the garden. Good times actually playing right now. Is the greenhouse doing things and stuff and making us money?
Something like that. My house is almost finished.
Okay, so all those are in there. Oh wait. Wrong thing. It's getting late. No, it's not allowed. No, I don't want to eat that pound stick. Someone open the chest. Forgot I was gonna put the rare seed in there. That's what I'm trying to do. That could go in the fridge.
It's bedtime.
Making my way. Time to sleep.
My foraging went up. So did my farming. What up?
Truffle oil is worth a lot of money. Holy cow. Made almost $10,000 off 9 truffle oils. I didn't realize that stuff was worth that much.
Oh yeah.
It's worth as much as... It's worth more than a diamond. Fruit, you play Stardew?
What happened was supposed to be done. The heck? Okay.
Well, what does the mail say? Mary
We
Lewis,
just ran
new
through
achievement.
Spain.
Package that appeared at people's houses containing items that posted about years ago. Community center built and blah blah blah. Thanks for going all your way. Words, stuff. That's what he just said. Come on, pet your dog. Oh, I forgot we have a workbench. We can make stuff here. Jeez, so many things. Can craft iridium sprinklers now? What the heck? Not doing that, but I think what we got going on is working pretty good. Place 2 or 3 mini obelisks on your farm to work between them. That's what I got the recipe for. Oh, geez. I wonder how many I could make, and then we could warp between different places that we couldn't. But we kind of got the mine carts for that, so I don't know. We'd have to think about where we'd want one.
Different ends of the farm, yeah.
Like the beach. If you'd want to warp to the beach to home, you could.
It says place 2 on the farm to work between them, so it's literally just the other side of the farm.
Oh, never mind. Well, that's dumb.
Well, they'd be helpful too.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we came
We're running late
by Marnie's or something like that, and then spawned up at your house. That could work.
Okay, so now I'm going to go do things and stuff. Oh, hi, kitty. Hi, Rain's kitty. Give you loves.
I don't remember what I named my cat.
Oh, no. Tell me?
Oh, shit.
Let's see. Hold on.
I
No.
didn't realize this was doing that. Shit.
Oh. No, it gave me Momo's house. Why did it do that? Or no, is that the name of the cat? Momo. Cabin built.
I have no idea.
No? I don't know. Let's try it on the dog. Furnace. That's cool though. Alright, I gotta go see people about things and stuff. I could have dropped off the squashes though.
Oh, hi Gus.
Today's recipe is maple bar and the traveling merchants here. The mini jukebox from Gus. Should give him lots of beer. Two spice berries. Hi, traveling merchant has a largemouth bass, chocolate cake.
What is my cat's name?
Cave carrot, goat's cheese deluxe, super meal, catfish, carp, jazz seeds, another rare seed. I'm just collecting all the rare seeds.
I didn't realize that, but
You named your cat after Puddles? No.
Didn't know.
I gotta remember to get the recipe. Dun, 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 dun.
tomato juice and a pickled cave carrot is what the raccoon wants.
Oh, the scene. Community center.
Celebration.
Look at it, it's so pretty. We'll catch.
Stardew Hero trophy.
Because I can't do one thing at a time. Oh, they're all checking it out. Look at them go. Yay, finished. Yes. Only to be forgotten again. Just wait. I think it's cool that after you get the community center done, you can actually go take the fish out of the fish tank and you can put whatever fish you want in the community center fish tank. I'm not sure how you did it, Mono, but the community center was never looked better. Well, we had to make up for putting the shorts in the soup, so we finished the community center for you.
No, we did it for us.
You're done. You've done
Fuck
Pelican
that guy.
Town a great service. Everyone in town is pleased. Can we forget about the soup incident? As a way of saying thank you, I'd like to present you with this town's greatest honor, the Stardew Hero Award. You've earned it. You received a Stardew Hero trophy. Now let's remember the soup forever.
Get to see the blue chicken.
Voice grumble grumble. What's the voice grumble? Oh, the other guy. Who's that? I forgot about this.
Chickens.
You got blue chickens already? Or no, you got to see them.
I get to see them.
You got to be teased. What? All my customers here? I mean, they don't buy stuff here. They're just hanging out. Let's be reasonable. Let's settle this the old-fashioned way. This means nothing. I'll just run a 75% off sale, and all my customers will come crawling back to me, begging for forgiveness. You'll see. No, this time, Morris. Not this time. I think it's time we settle this once and for all. Oh, and how do you propose we do that? Primitive. If you're too scared to fight me, then bring one of your coworkers. Or are all the JoJo employees such cowards? I know. They're here at the community center as well. At least Shane is. Insult me like that. But don't you dare slander the good name of JoJo. Joja. Pierre. Haha, good stuff. I love George. You're even weaker than your fresh produce selection. And the way you throw punches is just like Joja. Quantity over quality. Get him! George. Oh, yeah, okay, you can see George. He goes flying. I heard a splash. Did he land in this fish tank? Oh. Morris and his JoJo Mark cronies were never heard from again. Hi, Demetrius. Hey, Rain, come back. That's some for you. A couple things, so I can't give you that. I can give you those. There you go. You'll get chocolate cake. What was I doing when I got so rudely teleported?
I have no idea.
Oh, I was gonna go see Krobus. And then I got rudely teleported. Snails can take extraordinarily long naps, with one nap lasting up to 3 years. What?
That's interesting.
I guess that's preserving their species. Like, they go into, like, hibernation until the environment's right to come back out and reproduce. Oh, hi, Krobus! I don't know if it's been long enough yet, but I brought more void minis. Yay! He liked it. Still a little wary of humans. My shop is still open to you, however. Let's see. Why am I giving my own character description here? I don't want my own. I want his. So if I hit... There we go. I gotta hover over it. Friendship. I got 3 hearts with him. We're getting there. Oh, he likes coffee too. And sweet peas. And cheese. Oh, so he likes cheese. That's easy. I always have cheese on me. You're already giving Krobus a gift today. I know, I know. Match made in heaven, coffee and cheese, right? He's gonna be my best bud. He's gonna live at my house. And we're gonna eat coffee and drink cheese. Yeah, coffee, cheese, wine. All the things.
Personally, I wouldn't eat coffee, but okay.
No, it's probably not advisable. But yeah, it was funny for sure. Oh, I didn't go get my pickaxe today. I forgot.
I know you can't.
Not my pickaxe, but my axe.
Chocolate covered espresso beans.
Speaking of espresso beans, when are we getting some ale? Come on. Still getting more. What is this? Radish juice. Who the hell's gonna eat radish juice? Not me.
We need tomato juice.
You need tomato juice? Ooh. Who needs tomato juice?
The raccoon.
I don't think we have any tomatoes though, do we? Oh, we got 4. I'll do what I have. What does he give you with 4 tomato juices? Or tomato juice?
He just needs 1, and we also need a pickled cave carrot.
Pickled cave carrot, okay. We'll have to do that later.
I don't know when he's gonna get this. Also, it's 1 AM.
I know. Let's see. I keep putting rare seeds in here and they keep disappearing. Are you planting them?
I know I grabbed the rare seed and put it in the greenhouse.
Okay, because I just put another one in there. I just put another one in there.
Gotcha.
And I was like, where did it go? It's like it's gone. I'm probably gonna pop off for now because I'm getting sleepy. Have a good stream and a good night. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Get some sleep and I hope your day goes good tomorrow. Good luck. Sending all the loves and hugs. Oh, Marnie. What does she want? Cave carrot. We were just talking about cave carrots. I think she's reading her mind.
Mm-hmm. She's gotta be.
Calamari. Fried eel. Everybody giving me all the recipes. Holy cow. Spaghetti. Is that because we opened the community center that I just got bombarded with like 500 recipes?
Probably.
Holy cow. Oh. Mona, I'm not sure how the human message system works, so I asked Wizard to help me write this letter. I hope you are doing great. Doing okay. I wanted to share this with you. It's notes on how my people build a certain item. Dark sign. Krobus.
Give you a recipe to make a sign.
Mm-hmm.
How nice.
Pierre's General Store is now open 7 days a week.
Ooh. Fuck yeah.
I've unlocked the back room of the shop. Willie!
Thank God, Willie.
I'd like to give my wife a star fruit for our anniversary. Are you able to grow it on your farm? If you brought me one, I'd be very grateful, Kent. So we gotta grow star fruits.
I think I have a star fruit, to be honest.
Nice.
Oh my god, so many recipes.
Yeah. Need a
Linus just gave me
star
zucchini.
fruit. Need a cave carrot. I still need 10 beets. And Pam is still thirsty. She's been thirsty for a really long time. I'm just saying.
To be thirsty.
Oh, she's fixing to not be thirsty. She's gonna be so happy. And what did you need to pickle now? A cave carrot? Oh, yeah.
Cave carrot.
Yeah. Dang it. Okay, well, we'll have to wait until we get some of those to pickle.
I only have one star fruit.
I have, like... Okay. I should have bought that one I saw the other day, but I didn't. There was one for sale. A frenzy.
Hi,
Pike.
Quincy! Let me go. I gotta empty my pockets.
Oh my gosh. How many days are left in the season? Few.
Quite a few, I think.
I could replace some of these empty spots.
Excuse me while I go.
There.
In the Cinderset Forest.
There we go. What other seeds in here that I can plant? 8 days. Oh, there's starfruit seeds in here. They take 13 days though. That's too long.
That's just enough.
Yeah, I'm not gonna risk it. I'd rather do it in the greenhouse.
That's fair. You can toss them in the greenhouse.
How do we have spots that aren't... There we go. I can't plant stuff in. I think we have... And... I'll plant those. Alright, everything's been planted that can be replanted. Pew, pew, pew. And I don't think we need those for anything. Let's see. Oh wait, we do need those. Put those back. Wild mighty Yena. Poke catch. Pam is always thirsty. That woman. Always thirsty.
Well, I thought I could blow up the forest, but I can't, so I guess I'll grab my fucking axe.
Oh. I don't remember having picked this up, so I'm gonna put that down. I might have accidentally picked that up. I'm gonna put this trophy in my house somewhere. There. There's Pam. Finally, you're ill while you're working and fixing to drive. Thousand pieces of wood? Dang, Robin's greedy. I could expand my house with that.
I'm working on it.
It's already 5 p.m.
Yeah.
That means I can't go get my axe today either. I spent too much time in the garden. Oh, I forgot to see what recipe he gave me. Dark sign or something. Oh, dark sign. Use an item on this to change what's displayed. The item won't be consumed. Oh, so it's just like a regular sign, but it's a fancier, like, spooky one. Like, you know, your house sign, I can make you, like, a really witchy-poo looking one.
Yeah, Michigan, all of our stuff is broken. We can't do any fancy commands.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at that. Apparently all our cookie currency is borked, even mine. I don't have any cookies. We were robbed. Nobody has cookies.
We were. The fucking bot robbed us.
The bot stole all our cookies. It's so sad. Okay, I'm gonna return these beans over here. Because I didn't mean to take these with. I could probably put those in there too now that I don't know, I should sell those. Fine, I'll kiss myself. That one doesn't have that. This one does. I don't know that I need 36 of them, but I might. Can't believe it's already 8:50 p.m. Dang it. I haven't been loving on the farm animals. Shame on me.
That's okay.
I haven't really had time. I've been doing gardening instead, for a change. Most of their stuff's automated right now, though. Except for love and, truffle oil. Oh, and making cloth, apparently, is not an automatic thing. Probably because it's not next to the automator. If I put it next to the automator, it would be.
Oh yeah, probably.
So would the truffle oil, probably, if it was next to it. I don't think I can craft another automator yet. New achievement. Robin's resource rush has been fulfilled. Ooh.
You're welcome.
Look at you.
Accepted it and did it all in one day.
Okay, now I gotta find a cave carrot to put in this pickle machine for you.
I'm pretty sure
Cave
I have
carrots. I don't see one in here. And I don't see one in here. Here. Ooh, here's a cave carrot. A couple of them, actually, because I need one for... What's their name? Okay, cave carrot has been put into production. And I can probably grab some blueberries, because we have a bunch of those. Fill up the machines with the blueberries.
Weather forecast. There appears to be some kind of anomalous reading. I don't know what this means.
Oh, does that mean it's gonna be green tomorrow?
Ooh, let's find out.
It's gonna be green rain tomorrow, that's what it is.
Maybe. I thought it was... Maybe. I don't know. We're gonna have to find out.
It's gonna be green rain.
Maybe that's what happens. That means I can chop down some...
Yeah, it says maybe you should stay home today. My luck is right now, too.
Oh. Bedtime.
Pika hat! Okay, got it. How did you earn all those? Oh, oh, that's channel points, not cookies. I was like, I'm so confused. Oh no, I'm gonna pass out. I need more time. I need to go do the things and the stuff. Yep, green rain. Pika hat. Alright.
Oh.
I got you, man. I'll get you the fancy one.
Okay. So anomalous readings are green rain.
There you go.
But
Dun, dun, dun. There you go. Fancy Pika hat.
ugh, you're so fat.
Boop. Ah, my ear isn't popping. I don't know. It's my ear's deflated. Yeah. Well, it's bad that the little squishy balls came like flattened with no air in them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This one kind of fixed itself. Well, I don't know what that ear is doing. It's just like halfway popping up. There. That one's fixed. Party time. Yeah, this one's not doing anything. There we go. It's starting to come to life.
Oh,
We just had to get some hype, you know. Get it all
oh,
excited.
I'm sorry about the microphone. Puddles is hitting me in the face.
That's okay, I can't hear it. Alright, it's Green Rain Day!
Accidentally hit the mic. Green rain has descended upon the valley. Puddles, I need you to move, please.
You know what that means. Everybody drops what they're doing to do rain stuff.
Yup.
Stone chest? Oh, why do I have so much mail today? Cauliflower. Cheese cauliflower. Ooh.
I know, I haven't. It was from yesterday, though.
You get your mail a day ahead of me?
No. The cheese cauliflower and stuff was from yesterday.
I didn't get that yesterday.
Oh, apparently I do get it. I don't know. I'm fancier
Let's
than
see.
you.
Apparently. Oh, that means I can't go get my dang axe if I wanted to.
Because of the green rain?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, fuck, that's right.
Because he's going to be
Those
at the
friggin'
bar.
wimps.
Because they're all hiding.
I forgot
Yeah.
how much of wimps they are.
They all hide at the bar today. They're like, oh my god, we're gonna die. Green rain.
Out over nothing. As if it'll kill 'em.
Jeez. Right? Riot? What are you writing about, Michigan? Michigan's rioting.
Getting some secret notes while doing this, though.
Mm. Okay, there we go. Now I gotta get my booty in gear and go get some green rain stuff. There's a couple little pieces. I should probably stand up. My body hurts from sitting so much.
The train!
The train on top of that. There's also a pale ale if you want it. Oh.
There's the train, but it doesn't look like it's doing shit.
Oh, you went there?
Not getting anything. That warped. Nothing.
Nothing.
Frickin' useless. All because of the green rain, I'm sure. Oh?
It's a long one. What the heck is that? Little face.
I don't know.
There's snow on that one? How long is this train?
This one's a real long train.
It's wasting my time.
What?
Give me stuff.
Okay, that's it. Oh. Rude. It was rude. Couldn't give us anything.
I don't have an axe, by the way. Because I didn't pick mine up.
Weak.
I
Mine's
didn't
still the
pick...
base one.
Yeah, because I didn't go pick it up, so I can only do the ground stuff.
My
Oh,
axe is
poke
weak, so I
catch.
can't even get hardwood with mine.
It's a dash bun.
Dash bun?
Yeah, I think Momo's our heavy axe hitter.
Yeah, you can join Discord. You should be okay, Michigan.
I think it's blocked out to only Stardew players at the moment.
Maybe.
Let's see. Ah,
No, you don't
right.
I'm gonna go to the other forest.
I mean, you don't play anymore. Froggy! Oh, cry. Don't cry. Probably gonna end stream after this day anyway. Don't cry. I do have to do this thing called work tomorrow. Just to walk away. No, I'll hang out in Discord for a little bit after stream. KimonoKat's farm. This chat is buzzing with laughter. And hype. Clumsy Momo points out that Pan's endless thirst. While the wild Pokemon evade capture. Yes, I'm reading slow because I'm also trying to swing. I was like, this is more important than reading. Michigan is all about self-love and party vibes, throwing kisses and demanding more hype. Meanwhile, a dash bun escapes capture, leaving trainers in disbelief. Will anyone catch a break? Stay tuned. Hashtag farm life. Hey, I finally got a note. Work? Is that what people do? I don't know. Apparently we have to. It kind of sucks, to be real. You gotta work to live. Gotta make money so you can feed your pothole. I gotta eat, so I gotta work. Cheers, bot, my only friend. We're farming green rain. We can't help it. Priorities. Endless green rain.
Oh, thank God I have help over here. So I was gonna take this whole forest out on my own.
No, I've been getting all the places you skipped.
I haven't even gotten down here.
I started up at the top. So.
I worked by the hats so I could.
So many frogs! Yeah, I can tell you've been over here. There's like all these fiber pieces laying everywhere. It's some random pieces you missed. Da, 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 da.
There's only so much clicking I could do.
I know, my fingers are getting tired. I gotta shake out my arm.
We weren't prepared for this. This is
No,
why
we
don't play
weren't.
competitive games.
I was not prepared. I did not have my axe. I'm so upset. At least you got the heads up. How did you know again? What did it tell you?
It said anomalous reading. I just did a weather check.
Oh, on the TV? Okay.
Yeah.
Mine was like a green icon for rain tomorrow, so I should have known that.
It was gonna be green rain.
Yeah. I just assume that's the way it always looked, because I haven't gotten familiar with the mod yet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh god, I'm gonna have carpal tunnel tomorrow.
Right?
Stay away from me, slimes. I have stuff to do. Do you mind?
I didn't bring my hoe with me, so I can't get the artifact spot that's over here.
I brought everything because I figured it only takes so many spots for all this stuff because it's literally the same stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I got out of the forest. It was dangerous in there.
Oh yeah, the secret forest.
Mm-hmm. The slimes wanted to hurt me. They didn't want to leave me alone while I was doing my chores. Getting rid of the evil green rain. We cut this way on the farm? I don't know. Looks like we did. Hype, hype, hype! We're starting to see the finish line. Starting to clear up all this nastiness. Jeez, I think rain's even been up here. Good job, Rain.
Did a lot.
Shake the trees. Shake them!
Where the fuck is my hoe?
Did you throw it away? Did you abandon it? Did you throw it into a whale?
Oh, I found it. It was not where it was supposed to be. I'm gonna go talk to the people.
Shake all the trees. Da, 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 da. Can talk to all the scaredy cats.
We didn't get the bus stop.
Oh, I didn't go up there. Right. Dun, 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 dun. All the artifact stuff. Dun, dun, dun. Shocky! Shake it off. That's right. Shake it off. Green rain invasion. It's locked. I don't get to talk to everyone?
Nope, apparently not.
Apparently not. I gotta talk to them as they're running away. Yuck! Pam, shut up. You saw nothing. I'll pay you off. Here's the mail. You did not see me dig in the trash. I just paid her to not see me dig in the trash. Hi, Shocky. How are you this evening? I hope you're doing well.
Do you see any of the stemmy trees?
Yeah, there was a bunch of them in town, but I don't think you can chop down in town.
Oh, you can the stemmy trees.
Okay.
Not
It's almost bedtime now, though.
I see that.
Time to sleep. I can't kiss you, Electric, but I will once I get my cookies. Yeah. Apparently we were robbed. All our cookies are gone.
Yeah, the bot robbed us.
Hello, my girls. Hello, hello, hello.
Yes.
Pew, 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 pew. What? My cookies? Yeah, hit exclamation cookies. You have none. I gotta see if I can restore them somehow. Apparently they're gone. But yeah. I think that's it tonight though, guys. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the stream. I'm gonna go see if somebody playing Stardew is still alive. Might do a raid. Let's see. Okay. Da, da, da. Yeah, I'll probably go into my regular voice chat in a minute. Oh yeah. Okay, okay. Sweet. So if you guys want to help me, we're gonna go raid this person. So I need all the hype I can get. Hype, hype, hype. So click over there. I'm gonna go raid a Stardew streamer. Raid. Raid 2. We want cookies or riot. So copy pasta. If I can get things to copy pasta, and then I could actually put in the raid command. Copy. Exclamation raid. But yeah, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for hanging out. Click over there. Get there ahead of the commercials. All that good stuff. And then we're gonna riot. So thank you, thank you, thank you again. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being here. Happy Sunday. I'll see you guys again as soon as I can. But alright, goodbye. I'm gonna do the end street and then jump over.